Hello my friends, I want to start this video from the breaking news we have. You see this? This is the Ukrainian Flamingo missile, or what is left from it. It was found in Russia, somewhere in the forest. As you see, it is some sort of the fiberglass, or how to call it. Not the carbon fiber, I think, because it's a very expensive material, but something cheaper. As well as this hatch made out of the composite materials. And here are probably wings. You may see they're also composite, so I thought that missile was made out of metal completely, but it appears that just the engine housing is made out of metal. The rest of the missile, I would say, is pretty much light. It also makes it less vulnerable to be spotted by the Russian raiders. However, in this case, it probably didn't help. I think this missile was shot down by Russian Panzer 1S system. Внимание, провода не подключать. So here is attention, do not connect wires, it's said. And here is why I think that this missile was after all shut down, because those holes like here and there, they only could be done by some of the object that penetrated this missile's skin. Could those be some of the internal parts, like for example moving rotor, and by the way this is the engine housing? Yes, it could be like that also, but I think that after all it was shut down judging on the place, location of this missile, somewhere in the forest. I think Ukraine didn't aim for it, really. And this is the part of the electrical box. It is made out of aluminum or aluminum, depends where you live, yeah. 27 volts, it's pretty much standard for DC electrical system in aviation. The serial number of, I guess, this box is 7, and it was produced in 2025, so this year, and this is the protection level, IP54. Also, I see some rubber wash here, probably to minimize vibration of this box. And this is the microscheme. Looks like the internals of the audio interface, pretty much. Yeah, lots of the it's amplifier, yeah, isolation amplifier. Very interesting. Maybe the audio interface could be built with the same components. This microscheme is made by Promsat. It is a Ukrainian company because this phone is a Ukrainian one. The protection level of the case is IP20. It's pretty much sealed here, you see. Yeah, of course, this factory used some sort of the foreign-made components to make this microscheme, and there is one more, by the way. So Russians will analyze it, but it's nothing unique over here. It's pretty much old technology Ukraine is using in those missiles. And what is this? Oh, this is some sort of the transmitter or receiver. Yeah, this is the antenna for communication. Wi-Fi password, we have everything. Can I just scan this QR code? Oh, you just have the password here and the name of the network, that's it. Yeah, it just gives me the same numbers here, nothing more. And judging on that, I think Ukraine is capable to correct the flight path of this missile. So this is overall a communication box, you see? This aluminum box with some of the shock mounts and micro schemes, it survived the crash. So yeah, it's the FAL-1 missile with some of the new modern technologies implemented, and it's way bigger than FAL-1. And that makes Flamingo missile, I would say, kind of vulnerable against the Russian air defense. Yeah, it's made out of the composite materials, as we already understand. Composites are pretty much transparent for the radio waves, but in the forward part there is the huge warhead, and also it has a big engine, plus the aft part is made not out of composites, but I think it's metal, aluminum as well. Yeah, sorry for the image quality, that is what I was capable to find in internet, comparison of the sizes, and here you see that Flamingo is really huge, even compared to the Russian Caliber missiles, which Russia launches from their ships in Crimea. And Tomahawk is almost 1 meter shorter compared to Flamingo, also it's very narrow. Yeah, it may carry less of the payload, but nevertheless it's very hard to detect Tomahawk. Taurus, you may say it's even shorter, but it is used to bust the bunkers. And I'm out of clue why Germany is still not providing Ukraine with Taurus. Well, I guess if Donny sends a couple of the Tomahawks to Ukraine, Germany may send some of the Taurus. I think so, because it was the story with tanks. So United States at first agreed to supply to Ukraine Abrams tanks, and then Germany, Chancellor Scholz, as far as I remember, he agreed to supply Leopard 2 tanks. Only after Americans. They don't want to be first, they don't want to escalate from their side. escalation. Yeah, all say about escalation, but Ukraine does some interesting steps. However, this missile is big, it's new, it's very wet, so of course Tomahawk in general is better for Ukraine, because for Russia it would be very, very hard to hit this missile, to shut it down in their airspace, even with Panzer 1S. Tomahawk is very nimble, it's very narrow, and it's damn fast. So because Russians still have some of the air defense systems, Ukraine decided to clear the way for Flamingos. For example, this video was just published and it's brand new. I haven't watched it myself, so while filming this update I'm gonna look through it with you, and I already see that it is the radar of S-400 system. Just 3 days ago Russia already lost one of those radars, and again Ukraine somehow finds them and kaput. So let's watch this video, it's very interesting. Okay, so there is the system. Oh, there is the kaboom! From the very, very far distance, and Ukraine is using shark drones to nail everything. Yeah, shark drones. Even the location looks the same, but before there was different system. Yeah, with couple of the launchers, now Russians deploy or start to deploy this kind of the radar, and immediately it was spotted and kaputted. It is the most expensive part of S-400 air defense. And it wasn't a decoy, because there are some of the supply vehicles nearby, and probably, well, this could be even a launcher. And do Russians have decoys of their S-400 systems to build this one? It's a very huge vehicle with this radar. I don't think they have the one. Well, they have something like this, inflated stuff, but it wasn't the one for sure, because after kaboom the vehicle was still out there. Yeah, looks like launcher of S-400. You see this truck, it's huge, it's more than a Patriot system, I mean bigger, way bigger. Well, maybe Ukraine used some of the drones or HIMARS artillery to hit that target. But it was again a very, very precise strike, exactly what happened 3 days ago, but it's completely different case, different video. Well, President Zelensky today stated that Ukraine will intensify long-range strikes on Russian Federation using different weaponry. Well, my take that Ukraine is pretty much serious about massive use of Flamingo missiles. Maybe those were produced for the last couple of months massively. Judging on the current scale, I guess roughly 30 of Flamingos could be in Ukraine, ready to launch almost. But for that strike to be successful, I think Ukraine should use Russian tactics. First of all, they exhaust Ukrainian air defense with the help of the Shahed drones, and Ukraine might do the same with FP-1 drones, Luty, Beaver, and just after send Flamingo, because Panzer 1S, it has I think 4 of the missiles ready to go, and later on it needs reloading. And I would say that in many of the cases Panzer 1S is very effective against low-flying targets. Well, sometimes the Russians hit their homes, like it happened not long time ago in Belgorod. There was the video that I cannot show you here. The Russian missile just hit the top floor of the residential building, and some of the Russian publics, they say it was the strike of Tomahawk missiles, which were supplied to Ukraine. Yeah, sometimes Russian media or Russian channels, they're crazy. Well, I just hope that one day Ukraine gets those Tomahawk missiles after all. Plus, there was the big meeting yesterday where Zelensky approved the new SBU strikes aimed at weakening Russia. Some new spiderweb-like operations could be done by Ukraine pretty much soon. Well, I guess we'll all wait for it, but performing spiderweb for the second time, I think that after all it could be pretty much difficult for Ukraine, because Russia already knows that trick. But how effective Russians could be in stopping those operations, that's the other factor. We know how Russian FSB performs their duties, how they slept absolutely the Crocus City Hall operation and Spiderweb. Also, by the way, Ukrainian strike on Kursk, because after all it's the duty of FSB to protect the border of Russia. Yes, the border control forces belong to FSB. Oh, what is happening? Can we help somehow? This is Feodosia, Crimea, the biggest oil storage that was hit. Oh my god, it is still burning for the 4th or 5th day. You can see Russians are wasting precious water over there, and they don't have any sort of the helicopters. Come on, there's a big airfield dedicated to those helicopters which might carry some of the water. Russians also have B-200 aircraft, a water tanker, firefighter one, but no, they hesitate to use that stuff. Well, maybe they just understand that it's kind of useless to extinguish the fire after all. It already destroyed this big oil tank, and not just one. There are many more that burned down completely, so it's the great success of Ukrainian operation deep in occupied territory of Crimea and sometimes in Russia too. Oh, breaking news, we have it from the Russian channel. Sorry guys, I don't have the time to translate it for you visually, but I can translate it verbally. An aircraft MiG-31 crashed in Lipetsk Oblast, Ministry of the Russian Defense reported. It happened during the approach for landing after commencing the training flight. Crew ejected, there is no threat for their lives. But anyways, Russians lost MiG-31. The same MiG-31s which violated Estonian airspace. Here's exactly a photo of the MiG-31 spotted by NATO jet that was scrambled for interception of Russian jets, but it was not done, I mean physically. It continued the flight, no shutdown happened. MiG-31 is important because it may carry Kinjal hypersonic missile, you may see it underneath. Well, it's not like fully hypersonic missile, but still it is very fast. And for Ukraine it's very hard, if not impossible, to intercept those missiles, and every time Russian MiG is flying close to Ukraine, all over Ukraine there are air raids announced, because this missile may hit every sort of the place in Ukraine in a matter of minutes. But still it is less than Mach 5, according to independent analysis. If the number is more than Mach 5, well, in this case it could be called hypersonic. But Russians call it like that anyways. And just now, while I'm recording this video, Russia launched so many Shahid drones to Ukraine. Mostly they're coming from Bryansk and Kursk regions. Some of the drones were spotted even in the western Ukraine. What's the goal of those drones? Why they're going to Cherkasy and Kropivnitsky over here? Well, maybe they will turn later on to Kiev, because that is how they bypass Ukrainian air defense, maneuvering all around. By the way guys, I have my Telegram channel and there I post lots of the stuff, so before even I film the video, I post some of the news for my Telegram subscribers. It is for free, you may check updates, but today I didn't update during the daytime, just at the evening I started to share some info, and yeah, sometimes I even forward, for example, from Noel reports, because they have pretty much good analysis. I also monitor their Telegram channel. And sometimes I share the content which I cannot play on YouTube. You may also find it on Telegram. Oh, here we have a Russian Shahid drone and Ukrainian helicopter. Oh, they fire. Wow, that's the huge kaboom of the Russian drone. That's interesting. Mid-air. I wonder what kind of the helicopter is this. Maybe Mi-24 Attack 1, or maybe, well, it looks like Mi-8 after all. But I'm not sure. The video is fantastic, so Ukraine uses every sort of the tool to shut down Russian Shahid drones. But it's better to be aware of air defense missiles in this case, yeah, for this helicopter. But now using aviation is more or less coordinated with air defense. Alright guys, finally we have some of the good news, I guess, from the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. According to the latest report from the International Atomic Agency, Russians started to plug in the station to the main electrical supplyment. Yeah, those poor generators worked already for a couple of weeks at least, and that created lots of the risks, first of all for the cooling systems of the station, but, you know, Russians try to experiment. They want to activate one more reactor fully to supply occupied territories and territories of Russia. It was their main project and they didn't say about it openly, but analytics and experts also from the International Atomic Agency, they say like that. So hopefully they'll connect it as soon as possible, because supplyment of the station is crucial. What is this? Russians, what is this? Something is burning. Why? Why haven't you deployed the Panzer 1S very close to this facility? Or maybe Panzer 1S sometimes is useless? Don't tell Putin about it. He likes to put those all around his villa or palace, yeah? Well, what is this facility, guys? We have the report from Austin Technical. I follow this channel. It's very nice. You can just put in a search in Twitter. Very good channel. My recommendation. So last night, Ukrainian attack drone successfully hit Russia's Korobkovsky gas processing plant, one of the largest in southern Russia, handling up to 500 million cubic meters of liquid gas per year. Jeez, this is huge, my friends. This is outstanding. The main condenser was reportedly heavily damaged in the strike and subsequent fire. Definitely something is wrong out there. And this is the map before and after some of the fire. Yeah, some of the grass burned as well. close perspective, before, after. Oh, Russians, you suffer once again. You know, your refineries, your gas processing stations, the biggest ones in Russia. Why? What happened? Maybe special military operation goes? Yes, according to plan. And the secondary confirmation from the NASA fire detection satellites. But we don't need it, I guess, because we saw the real image with fire. Oh, what is this video? That's great. I'll lower my image. Oh, this is the artillery-style usage of the helicopter. Ukrainian Air Force, you can see this tail, yeah? Cool, this is Mi-24 attack helicopter. Some flashes, turn and returning at a very low altitude. Awesome. It's not very precise usage of the helicopters as artillery, but all the sites are using helicopters like that nowadays. Wow, that's awesome. And this is Ukrainian Sukhoi 27, and you see what is here. This is JDAM, yes, American-made gliding bomb. Awesome. This is fantastic, wunderbar airplane, looks awesome. One of my favorite jets, and it's also very big. I think it's 500 pounds JDAM. French ISM bombs, they're a little different. You may see them here, and this is probably Sukhoi 25 attack airplane. Yes, I guess. And you see, this guy likes anime, Attack of Titans. Nice. I also like anime. Well, not this particular one, but Evangelion. This is Asuka from Evangelion. I love it. Yeah, also Ghost in the Shell, Cyberpunk 2077. I'm a little deviating from the topic. Nevertheless, we share with some people some passion, and it's cool to see our pilots sharing that as well. And now let's go back to the front lines. Crazy Russians, why do they continue to do it? Across the Dobropilya direction once again, and you see those couple of the vehicles, or symbols of those couple of the vehicles. Well, if we click on it, you see there's the information and confirmation on the X platform. Let's watch at least partially this video. Well, actually it's the compilation presented to us by Ukrainian channels, Ukrainian brigades. Lots of the vehicles were kaputted, and some of them were deployed out there in Dobropilya. Yeah, geolocated and displays 1, 2, 3 vehicles totally kaputted in the failed attempt to advance towards Vladimirovka. And what was the reason for Russians doing it here? It is one of the most drone-tracked area. And I'm actually surprised that those vehicles reached this place. It's kind of far away from their location. And from what direction did they advance? From Boykivka? Because there is the Ukrainian army presented here, and we have the geo-confirmation about its presence. When it was published October 8th, the group of the Russian soldiers was eliminated by Ukrainian 425th Assault Regiment. The source is the Skala Regiment of Ukraine, and I already showed it to you yesterday, this Russian group of the soldiers. And now we have the geolocation of this event, where it happened. Awesome. It means that Ukraine has attempts to move and close this gap for Russians, but Russians send some of the reinforcements, and they do not even hesitate to use useless vehicle attacks. It is very strange, beyond understanding. Just recently they lost tons of the vehicles in this direction, and here they try again, like, what's the use? But in general, Russia has bigger plans for Zaporizhia and Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. Well, just yesterday, Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Army Gerasimov reported about Russian success in advancing in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast and also in Zaporizhia direction. From his words, I understood that now it's the priority direction for Russia. Yeah, Russians still remain quite active in Pokrovsk and Konstantinovka pockets, but Zaporizhia, from what we know already, because yesterday I showed you some of the information that Russia sent the reinforcements actually from Pokrovsk direction to the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. Well, maybe Russian military command definitely changed the plans for the massive attack operation, which was planned before. Now they understand it's better to attack in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast and Zaporizhia. Gerasimov mentioned this direction and also Stepnogorsk, which is on the south. So that confirms my idea of the Russian priority target, and now it is Zaporizhia city and Zaporizhia Oblast, where they can propel from Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. Here Russians just want to get further, and in this direction, well, the main aim is Pokrovsk. Also, if we zoom into the place and check out the recent update, you see Russians are moving not far away from Poltavka. They gained the ground, and also in Novoselivka yesterday and today. So after all, Ukraine so far is not able to cut Russian supplies in this area. A Ukrainian presence was spotted in Yanvarsky village, but Ukraine still is unable to cut this line for Russians to trap them in Novoselivka. And here also it was the recent Ukrainian counterattack, and from my information, Ukraine is presented in Vorone village. I think after all it's important for Ukraine to cut Russians here, otherwise they might create this bigger bridgehead and get to this plateau on top, and later on it would be easier for them to go to Pokrovsk. Yeah, it's been a while since we checked the 3D map for the last time. Well, all of this territory should be red. I don't know why it's not colored, but this is the presence of the Russian army here. So if we go to Novoselivka, you can see there is the river, and let's go to the 3D mode over here. You see Russians need to go uphill just a little to this plateau, and then they might reach the highway. Novoselivka itself is in a downhill, which makes it kind of difficult to defend, and the next big village is Velika Mikhailivka. Yeah, it's way bigger, and it's on the way to Pokrovsk. Pokrovsk is over there. So the plan for the Russian army is first of all to cross this river, take this forest patch and advance further. But we'll see how it goes for them, because this is kind of the difficult terrain for them to attack, and good for defense, by the way. In general, yeah, not for this village in particular, but ups and downs make it better. Also, according to reports, the situation in Liman is not so good, because Russians cut this bridge from Ruzzia Gorodok. That's why for Ukraine it's very hard to supply this region, including Liman itself. So my prediction that Russians finally will occupy this entire area, but they will not be able to proceed towards Sloviansk because they cut those bridges themselves. I think it's the stupid move they did for their own army, but they did what they did. They wanted just probably to take Liman and not to create the threat for Ukrainian forces from the north or northeast, because without those bridges I don't think that they will be capable to cross the river. So the only chance for them to advance here is from eastern side, which is not that far away from Kramatorsk, less than 20 kilometers. Interesting. Oh, it's been a while. Aliyev met with Putin, and they even spoke about Azerbaijani jet that was shot down by the Russian air defense, and for the first time Putin actually confirmed that it was the Russian air defense. However, in his speech he also added absolute nonsense, accusing Ukraine. Putin said that it was done by mistake, and this missile, it didn't hit the airplane. No, it just exploded few meters away from the airplane. And please someone explain to Putin that that is how it used to be. That is how air defense missiles work. They do not hit airplanes or missiles. They explode nearby, releasing those shrapnel particles. And Putin said, no, those are not the shrapnel particles. Probably those are the debris of the missile itself, which is absolute nonsense, because we saw those classical holes in the skin. And by the way, this is my thumbnail that I created. I filmed a video about it on my pilot blog channel. So those holes, yeah, those are not the parts of the missile. No, this is the shrapnel, and what Putin was saying is just a pure bullshit. Moreover, a few months ago there was the information published that the crew of the air defense systems, they obtained the order from commander to launch those missiles to shut down the target. That was not moving as a Ukrainian drone, it was traveling way faster, at least 3 times faster. But Putin says, no, we're gonna look what happened, we're also gonna prosecute those who did it. But what we know, that commander who gave the order, he was promoted before by Russians also a few months ago. And here is this part of the video showing Putin speaking to Aliyev, president of Azerbaijan. I know you don't speak Russian, probably. I do, but let's just listen to this audio. I'll turn it on. Is there some audio level? I will rise it up. It's probably maximum that I can get. Why there is no microphone? Russian media, what happened? By the way, they met in Tajikistan. It means that they don't want to show this Putin's mumbling about that missile. By the way, look at Aliyev's face. Like, yeah. Judging on his reaction, I think he knows what happened and he doesn't believe Putin's bullshit, but he cannot tell it openly. Yeah, you're a bullshitter. What are you talking? What a nonsense. Unfortunately, yeah, they have to play this politician game. We have what we have. Okay, guys, it was a fantastic video review. Somehow I obtained the pleasure of filming this video. It's a long forgotten feeling because mostly I perceive my job as a job, but today, yeah, maybe I have just a new gear. Yeah, this year I invested a lot into my gear, into video production, so thank you so much for supporting my channel on Patreon and on membership. The link for my Patreon you may find right in the video description just below. And for membership, just press join. And today I promise to record the separate content for my patrons and members. Yeah, sometimes I do it, not very often, because after all my time is quite limited, but I try to do it. So thank you again so much, guys, for your kind support. And I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.